Welcome to Changing the Game, where bold leaders, rule breakers, and trailblazers drop the playbook and share how they lead, win, and shake things up.
All right, today's guest is AnnRagan McGlone. She is a former D1 swimmer who took her athlete mindset straight into brand building. AnnRagan is the founder and CEO of Odyssey PR, where she's helped shape standout brands across beauty, wellness, and lifestyle. But she didn't stop at building other people's brands. She created Medalist, the first clean and sustainable performance skincare line made specifically for female athletes. After realizing the industry simply wasn't built for women who train and sweat hard, she's also invested in the future of women's sports as a founding member of Launch Break and a strategic advisor to Penn State Teammates for Life. If you've ever wondered what it looks like to turn everything sport gave you into a brand, a mission, and a movement, you're going to love this episode. AnnRagan, welcome to the show.
Yay! Hello. Thank you for having me, Jordan. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to chat with you, AnnRagan. I think entrepreneurs are definitely my favorite people to talk to because I just feel like you have just such a specific personality type and skill set. And just, I love hearing about the journey. So yeah, super pumped to have you here and share your story. If you just want to kick us off at the beginning. So you swam at Penn State, you swam at Boston College. That athlete identity has really shaped exactly what you're doing today. So I guess at what point did being an athlete really shape your identity or become who you identify as?
I think if you've ever played a sport since you were, 7 or 8 years old, it's kind of always shaped your identity, especially because, you have your days set up for you. You have what you're going to be doing. You're going to practice, you're going to school, practice, and then usually you're going to practice and then school and then another practice for swimming and sports like that. But, I think it really shapes not only your identity, but your community around you as well and who you're hanging out with. My best friends that I've been with, since the age of 8 are all swimmers. So I think it really kind of sets, the tone of the trajectory of your life, not to be too serious about it. But I do think that, being an athlete really does kind of set the tone of where your life is going to head and what that looks like for the trajectory of where you're going.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I don't think that's too serious. Like it really does shape exactly your trajectory of your life and how you make decisions. Did you know at an early age, like I'm going to be an elite swimmer? Like this is what I want to do.
Oh no. Okay. So my athlete story is truly funny. My sister, my younger sister, was like the born athlete in our family. She just was like, came out of the womb with so much energy. And like, I am just like, okay, sure. You know what I mean? But like, she kind of led like where she wanted to go, and I was just, my mom was like, we're going to take one car. So we're going to go to the same sport she's going to. Tried soccer and I got a nosebleed, got hit in the face with the ball and said, nope, that's not my sport.
Yeah.
But we did gymnastics, we did tennis, we did all of it. And then we kind of settled on swimming. I loved swimming originally and I love sports because I like to go and hang out with my friends. Like I wasn't trying to win. My sister definitely was like, I want to be the best. Like that's why I'm here. And so it took me a little while, I would say until the age of like 13 or 14, where I was like, I'm here for a lot of my time of my life. I might as well like train hard and, swim fast. So there was definitely like a connection to kind of like elite swimming when I was, the age of when elite swimmers kind of come about. 13, 14 is when you really start seeing kind of like, through puberty, women kind of like girls take off with their swimming. So for me, it was like, I tried every other sport and was like, you know what? This is, I'm not getting hit in the face with anything with swimming. So I'll stick to the swimming. And I started showing up with more intention and actually trying at practice. If my sister sees this, she's going to laugh so hard because there's so many fights on the way home from swim practice because I would get kicked out for talking too much while Cooper was like trying to like break records at practice. So there was definitely a mindset shift of like, I'm here all the time, so I might as well show up and give it my all.
Yeah, I can so relate to that, AnnRagan. Like the not one trying every single sport in the book. I think I did the same exact thing until something just really stuck. And that's so funny that your mom was like, yeah, we're taking one car. So like we're gonna swim. That's how
it was just like whatever the one sister's doing and like actually loves, you know what I mean? Like that's where we're going. So That kind of defined my path,
Yeah,
the carpool.
totally. Sometimes it's like as simple as that for the rest of your destiny. Like, yep, had to carpool, so that's the sport I ended up pursuing, and it changed. It really did change the trajectory of your life, though, because part of what you do now with Medalist was inspired by things that you experienced in swimming, right?
Yes, absolutely. So swimming has like a lot of different environmental factors, compared to other sports. Obviously, the chlorine, it just not only messes with your skin, but your hair as well. You're dried out. Your skin is like overproducing oil. So even though you think that you're like super dry and scratchy and itchy and feels like you can't even like move your skin, you're actually producing a lot more oil. So it really does get to, your eyebrows, your hair, your skin. So I has always kind of been like, what is out there on today's market that is for athletes that are dealing with these other environmental stressors like sweat, dirt, bacteria, all of that kind of stuff. And I felt like brands out there that there either wasn't anything, I'm a millennial true and true. So my skincare routine consisted of Proactive and St. Ives. So basically scrubbing your face off and then going and diving into a chlorinated pool made for an ouch
Yeah.
situation. So for me, I was just like, there has to be other products out there. I think we kind of joked around earlier that like, if it didn't burn or sting, you didn't feel like it was working. And I was like, that actually is not true at all. Like your skincare shouldn't be like burning your skin off. So for me, it just felt like, obviously swimming is a little bit different with the chlorine and, a little bit more TLC needed. But I spoke to all my other friends who are athletes at Penn State, specifically the ones wearing masks like hockey and lacrosse. And they were like, no, this is really needed. Like we get maskne all around, like acne around, where we're wearing jog bras and leggings and all of that. So I think for, me in college, that's kind of when I started figuring out and being like, okay, there has to be something on the market. And when there wasn't, and me going into PR marketing, and I kept seeing for years and years and years that there really wasn't something out there. That voice in the back of my head never went away. So it was like, let's do it. Let's build this brand.
I absolutely love that. You found that niche so early on that was so necessary. And it didn't come from you being like, what can I create? But
Yes.
you had the lived experience of being like, there is nothing that addresses any of my problems. And there's nothing addressing any of my friends and teammates' problems either. I mean, we're the same age, so I have the same exact skincare journey
Yep.
as you. It was St. Ives apricot scrub.
Just
And
rubbing your face off.
God, I can't believe we did that. It's just like there was no education on it either. It was just either, really harsh acne products or things that weren't well researched and
Yep.
you're sweating all the time. And it was like that was the true marker for us was, is it burning? Oh, it's working then. And I just can't believe that. Like we destroyed our skin barriers early on.
Oh my God, I know. Geez. If we even knew we didn't even know what a skin barrier was back
No,
then.
not at all. Not at all.
So yeah, no, I totally agree. And like, I just think it was, we were so uneducated with the ingredients that we're also, we were putting on our skin, which goes into our body. And as athletes, as you know, you grew up and played collegiate sports. You couldn't even eat a poppy seed bagel and like,
Oh,
you would get in trouble. So it's like we're being down like to literal like ingredients on a bagel that we're putting in our bodies, but we're just like slapping who knows what, like on our scalp, on our face. And that to me was like, okay, if you really think about that, like that really made me kind of think about, what are we putting on our skin, that's getting into our body. So that was definitely one of my like major kind of driving forces with Medalist. I wanted to make sure that everything was clean and natural ingredients. So it wasn't any like nasty no-nos like, sulfates and parabens and
yeah.
phthalates that you see in a lot of these brands that, cater to women or put sport on their bottle. And it's just nasty ingredients still that they're, rubbing in their face and on their hair.
Yeah, I know that's another thing that you've brought up in the past is like other brands, and we don't have to throw anyone under the bus, but I mean, everyone sees this. I see it too. They slap sport on the bottle, they
Mhm.
slap women's on the bottle, and it's really just like a greenwashing or pink washing type of label that goes into
Yes.
it, and it really isn't made for us.
Mm-mm.
It's the same ingredients with the marketing, and that is really off-putting to consumers, I think, especially now because we are more educated. We
Yes,
are more
exactly.
educated than ever before. And so I think it's really amazing what you are doing with Medalist because it's like, no, there's real intention that goes into this product. It's not just a label. It's not marketing. it's real ingredients. It's tested by Olympians, which I think is
Yeah.
amazing too. So I want to get into some of that as well. But you just had so much intention behind this brand, and I actually want to go just really quick before we dive super deep into Medalist because I love what
Yeah.
you're doing. I I want to ask this question from my own personal experience because
Okay.
I think entrepreneurs are really, really cool. And I think it's amazing that you had this idea and you didn't go right into like, I'm going to launch a brand. You
No.
had all this other experience first, which is probably pretty essential to what you're doing now and helping you learn. So can you just walk us a little bit through that career journey that led you to Medalist?
Yeah, absolutely. So out of living in Boston for swimming at BC, I got my first job in the city. I was doing ad sales and I didn't want to do that. Frankly, like it was something that got me to the city, right? I feel like a lot of our first steps in our journey are just to get to where we want to be. So even that's like a physical location or you're taking like a not so great job, but in the industry that you want, taking that first step. So from there, I then really got into the industry. I would say when I was working at People's Style Watch magazine, which may it rip,
Yeah.
it was part of Time Inc., which may that rip as well. I mean, it's been renamed so many times, but I think that that's kind of where I learned. I was sitting on like the beauty side and doing a lot of cool activations with different beauty brands and really seeing kind of like, oh my gosh, like these, immersing myself in the beauty brands, but also being like, wow, like there's so much money here. You know what I mean? And I think that that was very interesting too. I majored in PR. And so I wanted to always work in PR. So then from People Style Watch magazine, I went into an international PR agency that had offices in Milan and France and LA and New York. And I really dove into that, into that role. If you're not familiar with like the European summer, I signed up in June for my first official day, and it was a very small office. And the New York director was French, and she's like, "Bye." This is in 2016, so there was no Wi-Fi. She's like, "I'm going to the south of France with no Wi-Fi for 2 months, so good luck." And really like dove feet first into kind of like figuring out how to run a PR agency, honestly, as my first PR job, which is insane. But that I think really those moments that I had where I was like, this is kind of crazy, actually like led me to be able to like start my own agency, Odyssey. So I, had that experience of like running an office and running, a business for 3 months as like a 24-year-old, which was insane. But I think that really actually helped me in the long run to be able to be like, okay, this is how you do new business. This is how you, talk to clients. This is how you basically do everything from admin to hiring an intern to, getting the strategy and execution as well.
Yeah. It really seems like it sharpened your skills and instincts that you would need to build
Yeah.
Medalist later. And I think that is such an important thing of your journey, I think, to highlight in Reagan, because so many inspiring entrepreneurs out there are like, "Ugh, I'm running out of time." And I say this
Yeah.
because my own experience, like I remember being 20 years old, like, or in my early 20s, thinking like, "Ugh, I'm never going to be able to get to do the thing. Like I'm running out of
Yeah.
time to be on like the Forbes 30 under 30,
Oh
which
my,
like
I was
doesn't even
just gonna
matter."
bring up that list. Like that is the downfall, I think, for us. Like, oh my God.
Why was that?
Ugh,
That was such a millennial thing where it's like, oh my
yes.
God, they're on the 30 under 30. That's insane. Like they've done so many cool things before 30.
Yeah.
And we put this like artificial timeline on ourselves that really does not matter at all. And
Agree.
you wouldn't have been able to launch this brand potentially
Mhm.
without the intention, like with the intention that you have without this experience that you went through early on.
Oh, 100%, not even potential. Like I would not be able to launch Medalist without everything that I went through building Odyssey. So I launched Odyssey in 2020. Before, I was working at a large PR agency and working on large accounts like W Hotels worldwide. So, during COVID, obviously, if you can't hop on a plane and the hotels are closed, there's no need for hotel and hospitality and travel PR. So I was laid off for my position there, but blessing in disguise for sure. I was able to start my own agency, and I had a lot of beauty and wellness clients. Beauty specifically took off during COVID for me. I had dabbled in beauty like around, my 8 years of experience before COVID, but this really was like my first like owning accounts and, owning an agency and all of that. So I just had that in the back of my mind with, 10 years experience of being at the forefront of knowing what consumer brands are out there, specifically in beauty, because I'm doing this every day, all day, like in and out, like pitching beauty brands, doing constant research of other beauty brands and competitors. So that kind of led me to like, okay, there may be some similar brands that are kind of on the market, but again, nothing that I thought should have been built for an athlete. So that's kind of what made me kind of the aha moment of being like, okay, like, yeah, there are similar brands and they're, out there for, women who might be like active lifestyles, but I'm talking like we are sweaty girls, we are on the go. Like we might not have time to take a shower in between places or, even if it's like we're hopping on a plane and you don't want to go and use the airplane sink because who wants to do that, and like be able to feel like moisturized and all of that. So I think I don't know. I think with Odyssey, it really helped me kind of not only like the business skills, but just like the insider kind of industry knowledge of what is there and what isn't and what's succeeding and what isn't, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. And you bringing up the airplane example, I have very specific memories of playing in college, and you have a, like we call serve and pass in the morning, and then you get on a bus. Like you don't
Yeah.
have
Oh
time,
my God, the bus.
and you just sit there and you're like in your sweat or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's horrible. So such a need for this for athletes, 100%. Was there anything specific with the beauty brands you worked with at Odyssey where you were like, oh, that's, a great move on their part, or like, ooh, maybe I'm going to learn from this mistake that this brand made? Is there anything that stands out to you like that?
I think for the biggest thing that I've learned that I don't think I would have learned unless I had my own agency was the mistake of going into retail too fast. So everyone thinks that it's a huge win. Like, yes, it is a huge win when you get into Ulta and Target and Sephora, but like it doesn't stop. That's when it just starts, like you basically have a few months to prove your shelf space, and they can be brutal in terms of keeping, sometimes brands go to retail to die if they don't have the foundation and kind of support that they need. I think it's a very interesting case that, like, for example, Hailey Bieber's Rhode didn't even go into Sephora until after they sold to e.l.f. because I think they just wanted that complete foundation and make sure that people are like, why would I go into Sephora when I can just like buy from directly, like quite literally Hailey Bieber herself on her Instagram, So I think for me, like I saw a ton of great brands that I, worked with and represented, and it wasn't just PR as well. Like there has to be, whole tentpole campaigns. Think about who you're competing out there with brands that are literally taking people on 5-star vacations to Tahiti, and like making sure, if you really have to go into retail and have like a 360 tentpole approach, like just because you're getting press, and like I'm doing my job for the brand, it doesn't automatically translate to sales and getting people, off of XYZ to go into Ulta or Target or what have you. So that was one thing that I learned that really surprised me, and I think would surprise a lot of people as well who are kind of on the outside looking in. Like, yes, obviously getting your first retail space or getting any retail space in these big box stores from the outside, it is a huge accomplishment. Like there's nothing to diminish that, but that is just the beginning, and it is a very big uphill climb from there. And you have to be able to have the budget and the operations and, not only just like operations wise too, if you sell out of one stock and you can't get an order in because of tariffs or, an ingredient shortage, it's, they will kick you out of the shelf. They're not going to wait around for you. So that was a big one for sure that I learned.
That is such a powerful lesson, honestly, not only for entrepreneurs that want to come up with their own brand. I think it's a good metaphor for life too. It's like,
Yeah.
you said, being on the Sephora shelf or Target, like it feels like the pinnacle of making it for people.
Yep.
but it's not reality. It's like the highlight reel. It's
Yep.
like that's the highlight reel, but there's a lot that has to go into that behind the scenes that actually might not be a good strategic move for you.
Yes, I totally agree. And like lately, I don't know about you, but LinkedIn has kind of felt almost like the Instagram of like highlight reels, but for careers, you know what I mean? And it's like, are you doing this just to, like put on a LinkedIn update, you know? And it's like, why are you really going strategically into retail? Is it good for your business or is it just so you can post on LinkedIn? Is it, to attract investors or is it because investors told you that that was the move? It's really like you have to understand like there's a whole strategy behind going on it and it can kill your brand. It can definitely make your brand, but like it really involves a lot of operational, risk as well.
Yeah. You seem you are obviously very holistically intentional with this brand. I think
Mm,
it's very obvious from the conversation so far, and I wanna get into the intention behind developing your brand too, because like you said earlier, I'm not just gonna slap a sport or women's label on my
yeah.
product. It has to be intentional and made for specific purposes. So, can you talk a little bit about the development of the product, the ingredients, what that was like? Because that seems like a task to an outsider.
Yeah.
I wanna
I
hear
think
about.
yeah, it goes all the way back to, I'm 34, so back 2009 to 2013, like I knew that it was needed then. You know what I mean? And I kept understanding, like, even though I'm not in the pool 6 hours a day anymore, thank goodness, I'm still, going to workout classes and doing things like that where it's like, okay, like I still need something here, especially, with acne and all of that. So to me, it made it easier having that in the back of my head and knowing that like it's still definitely needed. I just like slid into the DMs of a lot of different athletes and originally like I was offering like Starbucks gift cards, but it got to the point that I had so much interest that like I would have had to pay probably like 10K in Starbucks gift
Starbucks.
cards. Yeah, I was like, okay, I could use 10K to like actually develop this formulation. So it got to the point where, I reached out to my old teams, Penn State, BC, and I just got on the rosters and I DM'd all the girls and I said, please share. Like I'm an alumni. Please give me your feedback. So there's two different kind of avenues here. We had a market research panel where I basically, you know, did this in my product development phase and I would send out these surveys and say, "Hey guys, like what do you guys really want and need right now?" And it's insane that everyone is still saying like deodorant and sunscreen, things that like there's definitely things out in the market today, but the fact that athletes are still like we need something that works for us is crazy. But I got, for me like I was very intentional like athletes don't need another vitamin C serum. We just don't. Maybe vitamin C can be in some sort of ingredient that we need for on the go or something like that. But, I did a survey at the beginning and 96% or 94% of athletes that I surveyed said dryness and acne were their number one concern. So right there, that's what my product line is going to be. I don't need to do anti-aging. I don't need to do any of this other kind of stuff. And then 96% said that they weren't happy with what's on the market today. So to me, those were very valid numbers to say, okay, this isn't just like a pipe dream in the back of my head or in the back of my mind. Like this is real stuff that people are still wanting and needing. So that really just kind of, I think, gave me a lot of people are like, you just like DM'd people. And I'm like, yeah, I did. I did a, hey girl, like what's up? I think it is very intentional too, because they knew that if they looked at my Instagram or looked me up, they knew that I was an athlete. They knew that I worked in beauty PR. They knew that I wasn't some like random PE company, or some like large brand who's just like, we're going to tackle sports now. It was someone with lived experience trying to really listen to them, and not be like, I wanted to take their wants and needs first and their feedback first and not have me kind of pushing down their throats like you need vitamin C or like we're going to do anti-aging because again my demographic is 13 to around 35 and then honestly your skincare needs probably change from going from acne and dryness to a little bit more of you probably still have that dryness and sweat and buildup and all that and want a clean um clean product, but it's more into anti-aging and things like that. So With the market research panel, I gathered my initial kind of products. And I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Under the budget that we had, I would love to have launched with a sunscreen or a deodorant first, but FDA approvals and all of that is totally out of budget unless you have lots of money already or an investor who is willing to help you out. And then I took it to the tester panel. So the WNBA, the Olympians, again, like I had contacts of athlete athlete management, athlete representatives for my time at Odyssey with other beauty brands. So that was definitely an advantage that I just with these, athletes reps, I just said, hey, I'm building this line. Like, would they want to test? And a lot of them said yes. Obviously, like for me, I'm not going to use those names because I didn't pay for them, and I think that that's very important. So, but down the road, like they'll be our first ones that we partner with and have paid partnerships and things like that when we're able to do that. But yeah, we tested 50, we selected 50. We wanted to make sure that it was different sports, different skin types, different, ethnicities, and different level of activity too. So yeah, it did work for, the WNBA player as much as it worked for, the girly pop who just joined her JV basketball team, So they did everything for a month, and we checked in every week about like, hey, what's going on here in terms of, is it working? Like, we have a cooling sensation with some of our products and some of it was too intense. So we had to cool back and, or dial back the cooling factor. But we made 4 to 6 product iterations per SKU with our tester panel. So yes, it took more time. It was more expensive, but I knew for a fact that we had a product that worked and that people enjoyed before we even launched. I didn't have to worry about like finding people who thought the product was great because I already knew that I had a standout product when I launched.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you were so intentional about different sports too, because different sports have like we're all sweating, but we all have
Right.
different needs or different schedules. Like those things aren't or different environments that you're playing
Yeah.
in also that can really impact the product efficacy and things like that.
Yep.
So I think that's awesome. How did you go about finding a formulator that was willing to work so intentionally with you?
I did a lot of outreach on LinkedIn. I interviewed about 6 people. And the one that I went with actually swam in college as well. And she has kids that swim. So it was very important to me, someone who seemed excited about this. I actually had someone say that this wasn't going to go anywhere, but still wanted to take my money. So I was like, all right, I don't, I don't think that that's the right kind of partnership to like literally say this isn't going anywhere, but I'll still take like your,
Oh, I
tens of
don't believe
thousands
in
of
you.
dollars.
I don't believe in your product, but here, I'll work for you. It's like, no, what?
Literally,
Like,
yeah.
how are we going to start off on a good note that way? That's crazy.
Yeah. So I just kind of did, I just kind of did the LinkedIn situation where I DM'd people. And Teresa, DM'd me right away and was like, this is amazing. I've always wanted to do this. I'm so glad that you're doing this. She has over 30 years experience at Estee Lauder. Now she's gone off on her own to do kind of formulations for other brands, and she's launched her own wellness brand. But she was really great in terms of being able, not like the timeline too, because I didn't realize this with the timeline. You don't really realize the timeline of like what it takes to launch a beauty product until like you're actually doing it, I think. But I have people who are like, oh, this is going to take years. And like Teresa was like, nope, I know formulators, I know manufacturers who can turn this around. She acted as like a nice, like, intermediate kind of business consultant as well, like negotiating MOQs and things like that. That's someone that I wouldn't know. I only know like, give me your shiny, product and I can put it in a magazine. But like everything before that, I was just I was not I was clueless. So I needed someone who, could do that in terms of, you know, in her sleep kind of thing. So she was great from the get-go, from the jump. She believed in the product. And she knew that there was a use for it because she was an athlete herself.
Yeah, that's such a great testament to needing people on your team to believe in the vision as well. Like not only you, like your why is so powerful, but you were able to let your why lead you to the right person. Like you
Yeah.
knew the right person when you found them because they were so invested. They had a similar lived experience and she has daughters that were swimming and she
Yep.
understood the importance and the need for this product. I think that's so amazing.
Yeah. That was very exciting. I felt like that was another, and early entrepreneur process, it's like things like that that click that you're like, okay, this is legit. This is going to happen. You know what I mean? And I think that that's what like fueled me. Just because it was like every stepping stone that was like, I have this idea. And then it was like, oh, I have a lot of people who are in my DMs who, over 500 girls being like, yes, I want this. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how to make this. So I'm not like, I'm not going to be like mixing things in my bathtub. Like I need to like find someone to do this. So it was just like, I don't know. Again, I am kind of woo woo, so I do believe in kind of like, fate and that kind of stuff, but like that felt very, very aligned. And I think in terms of there's also times that I have had no alignment in my business and I've been like felt like I've been like unstable and unmoored for a little bit. But like in the beginning, that was what I needed to know that that was like, okay, yep, this is going to happen and people want this and need this and want it in the world.
Yeah. You mentioned that there were times that you felt unaligned. And I think that's probably
Yeah.
normal for building a business. Like there's going to be ups and downs. How did you keep that intention through those down moments or keep that energy towards your why or the focus in those down moments?
Oh my God. Well, I think, kind of cliche answer is my background in swimming. I've been through a lot of tough times in my life, not only with athletics, but like personally, that like I, have a lot of resiliency from my freshman year at Penn State. Within the first month, I tore both my rotator cuffs. So you need your arms to swim. um,
Yes, you do.
so I, was basically out for the whole season and I had to learn how to be a good teammate, whether that's, not putting points on the board and traveling and going, to swim meets, but also continue to show up and like not knowing what's going to happen, trust the process, trust that my trainers are doing what they can, trust that I'm putting all I can into healing. But I think that that was, something that really kind of stood out when I was building and grinding. Just like, okay, well, at least I'm not like getting cortisone shots every week because I can't fall asleep, because it's so painful. But I think just like the resilience and determination, and then just like being able to understand that, sometimes I think with like athletes heading into entrepreneurship, we're so used to having that like immediate feedback loop. You go into practice, you go to a meet and you either win or lose, and from there you have feedback on what you can do, or you go and make a best time or personal best. And with entrepreneurship, it's not like that. It's messy, it's slow. You have a lot of mixed signals about like, oh, maybe this is working and maybe it's not, it's not like you just have to really kind of have a lot of confidence, like that you're out on your boat in the middle of the ocean, but like you are sure that you're on your way to land or at least see a lighthouse, heading your way. So I think the small, small, small wins, and I'm talking like, like, maybe today we got our largest like order, that someone's ever done kind of like that, but like just small wins, like someone answered my email, like that's a small win, or I got a meeting with this person. And I think that that was kind of, how I've been able to kind of transition from like athlete to entrepreneurship, like just understanding that, I do have the foundation and the building blocks, to be a great entrepreneur, but there's two different playing fields literally here,
Yeah.
like making sure that you understand that it is going to be messier and slower, but being able to still trust the process of like your training as well.
Yeah. I think small wins are something that's really important and really
Yeah.
difficult for a lot of people,
Oh yeah.
myself including, especially athletes, because we do have big goals, but it's a
Mhm.
marathon. You have to tune into those little wins or you're going to get overwhelmed and exhausted
Mhm.
for sure.
Mhm. Yep.
For
Yep.
sure. What are your favorite? I want to know what your favorite product is that you have, or actually two-part question.
Okay.
What's your favorite product? And then for listeners, what should they go to your website and check out first? If they only are like, I want to try one product, what
Yeah.
should they get?
I go back and forth between our clean sweep wipe and our game face spray, but definitely like my husband steals all my clean sweep wipes and like he hands them out to like all of his golf buddies. All of my husband's golf buddies have like a bag of clean sweep wipes in their like golf bag. Like obviously not my target audience at all, but they like love it. So I think if you're like really on the go, you're hot and sweaty, Clean Sweep Wipe for sure is just kind of, that's our best seller. I love Game Face Spray because it definitely was an innovative take on a hypochlorous acid spray. That could be what you use like after a workout or in your skincare routine, and that could be it, you know? So it's very multitasking. I use it a lot, and also before I like put my primer on for my makeup, because it really goes in and like munches all that like gross bacteria. So you're not like layering makeup onto a dirty kind of palette, you know? And it was the product that was nominated for most innovative by Who What Wear and Future. So that to me was like, okay, they see like the innovation here. But Clean Sweep Wipe, I think, is like our darling. I think it's like, you know, any age in any kind of gender, they don't mind using, you know, pulling out a wipe, wiping down the spray. I think that people kind of like, you know, are like, it's a little drama, you know, a little drama. So if you're okay with a little drama and whipping it out and be like, "Woo," you know, I think that that's fine. But I think Clean Sweep Wipe for sure is definitely like our, you know, go-to in terms of like crowd favorite.
Yeah. Why is the Clean Sweep Wipe different than what else is on the market right now?
So few things. It is multifunctional as well. So it can be a makeup remover and just a cleanser, and it hydrates. So a lot of times with makeup wipes or wipes in general, I hated the feeling of using a wipe and feeling dirtier or greasier after using it, A, or B, dry. Then I was like, okay, now I have to like use some lotion here. Like I thought the whole point, you know, was so I didn't have to get my hands all dirty. Like this is on the go, right? So I think that that's what innovates us, is that it's both cleansing and hydrating. It also offers a nice like cooling sensation that's not on the market today either. I just wanted something that really like calmed you down. Like my skin is beet red. I'm like gasping for air after like, you know, a workout, after a spin class or, you know, anything like that. And it really just calms everything down, cools you down. It's stool exfoliating, both with physical, with our wipe size, and also with the ingredients that we have in it. But it really leaves you with like a really nice dewy glow. And you feel, again, like you can use that first and then go in with the Game Face spray and, you know, really get your cleanser, hydrating, like you're done. You know, you don't have to whip out, you know, a washcloth and a sink because you probably don't have that on the go, or get your hands all goopy and messy with any sort of lotion, especially if you're like, you know, in between, you know, a timeout or something like that where you really feel like gross and dirty, especially like in the heat. I think that that was kind of like our main kind of focus. What can you use? Like an athlete could use this during a game, like during a timeout, and like feel refreshed, feel good, ready to go back on the court. Don't have to worry about anything running into their eyes and burning or stinging, or, you know, they feel clean and refreshed.
Yeah, I love how you talked about not needing to like use lotion, like your hands are dirty. I'm running from practice to class, or even now as an adult, like noon workout where I'm touching weights and then
Yes.
I have to run back to my computer to hop on a meeting right after, and
Yep.
I'm beet red. I don't
Yeah.
want to touch my face.
Yeah.
So it's like that is so important, having the multi-use and having it actually work. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. Where do you see the brand evolving over the next couple, maybe months or years, or what are you excited about for the future of Medalist?
Yeah. So speaking of retail partners, we're definitely trying to, you know, do a little bit more intentional retail partnerships like that. We have at the very beginning of launch, we were actually in conversations with some really exciting retail partners, but we just didn't feel like it was the right time. But definitely, you know, we opened up our wholesale partnership. So Columbia Women's Basketball was our first one, which we're super excited about. They ordered Clean Sweep wipes for their entire locker room for the season. So things like that to kind of grow, you know, NCAA partnerships, retail partnerships. For me, like I think being intentional about where we want to be. I'd rather be, you know, the only beauty brand in a sports store than the only sports brand in a beauty store. Just really making sure that we're focusing on where our consumers are going to be when they're, you know, going there. Let's say you're training for a marathon and you need some new insoles or shoes. You might as well pick up our Frick Stick, you know, for anti-chafe. And I don't think that there's really that kind of mindset yet to be in like an Ulta or Sephora, but I think we really want to grow, just obviously brand awareness continuing. Our main like goal is to just really be kind of like the it brand at the 2028 Olympics. That's like number one kind of goal. And I'd love to start, doing some large NIL partnerships with some ladies. I think that, I think it's amazing that at this age, they're able to make their own brand. I think it's completely obviously different from when you and I were competing. Like Instagram had just become a thing and we were like using the Hefe filter on our like coffee
Yeah.
Starbucks, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
oh my God. They're so good.
just the way that it's evolved and, being able to support, this next generation of female athletes is really important for us. We're launching a editorial side to our brand on Substack called The Podium. So that's going to be a lot of, um, stories on behind the scenes of athletes and Q&As and getting to know the athlete behind, just their stats or their PRs or things like that. It's also going to go into more of like, different editorial kind of or like testing of different products and just like kind of like a go-to for the sporty gal. We're going to have a lot of interviews with sports psychologists and nutritionists to do like actionable items on like day to day and bringing in that, athlete mindset into kind of whether you're retired or everyday life and that kind of stuff.
I love that. When did you say the podium was launching?
We are in our final like editorial calendar. So March, we're trying to launch by. I'm just going to say March.
March. I love it. I got to keep an eye out for that. I want to hear about it when it does launch because that sounds really cool.
I think it'll be perfect in time time for March Madness. Obviously, like all eyes on women's sports by then. But yeah, we should have you featured.
I will not say no to that. I cannot wait for this to come out. I think this is so cool and how you're reaching different niches and different topics that women care about, but still relate back to that athlete identity that we have. I think that is really cool how you're truly building a community. I think that's the future of branding is people want to feel like they belong to something. I think the world has, even though we have so much social media and so much connection, it's almost, I felt like it's isolated us a little bit more.
Yes.
So people are really seeking that.
I agree. And like the athlete community, it's like, if you meet a fellow athlete, like you and I like clicked right away, right? Like we understand, like I think that that's kind of the community as a whole. And I think that was when I was building Medalist, I already knew that there was a community out there. You know what I mean? I knew that this was going to do well because I already had a community built. It is the female athletes. Obviously, it's still trying to build my, brand awareness within that community, but it's not trying to find or start a community. You know what I mean? I think with some of these beauty brands that they may struggle with or wellness brands too, a coffee brand can be like, oh, like, we have everyone who loves coffee, but like, who are the people that want to like go on like IRL coffee dates and things like that? You know what I mean? And it's like being able like to build a community already, even though they have a larger pool, where I feel like we're doing the exact opposite. We have the community and we're building our pool in that community, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. I love it. I want to ask you a couple more questions. I know we are running short on time, so I want to talk just a little bit too about your personal life situation. You have a TikTok that I am living for your TikToks. You are living in a very small town in New Hampshire right now. So I want to hear a little bit about that. What drew you there and how has that shift from like big city living to small town, has it influenced your creativity or just your work with Medalist and Odyssey?
Yeah. So a little bit of background. In 2024, at the end of 2024, we moved to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which is a small coastal New England town from New York City after 10 years. So that was quite the move. We moved, my husband's originally from New Hampshire. So we just knew that we wanted to get out of the city. 10 years is a lot. We didn't really, we moved there after college and that was like we didn't really have a plan, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like, okay, this is where we live now, it was just like this is where our work is. So that's what drew us here. I didn't even really know where Portsmouth was before we moved here, to be completely honest, but it was just time for us to get out of the city. I felt like I was wearing my traps as my earrings like this all the time, and I just was like, I can finally exhale.
Like your nervous system needed just a little bit of a downer.
Yeah, exactly. And like you'd be very, shocked of just like the clarity and just like the downloads you get when you're able to just like, whew, exhale and breathe and not like worried about like missing your train or getting run over by a car or like sirens going off everywhere,
Yeah.
you know? So I think that that was just like very much needed in terms of personal. And yeah, I mean, I love being able to, we live on the seacoast region, so I can literally like see Maine, you know, down the street. And I go to the beach a lot, even in the winter, just to kind of sit. There's something about the water for me. I'm a water baby. Obviously grew up swimming. So like the water calms me. And I just feel like it gives me a lot more kind of like, okay, once I'm like regulated, I can do a lot more things than like, you know, being in survival mode almost at all times.
Totally. Yeah. I think that is so important. I love that you were able to make that transition and take a beat. Take a
Yes.
yes.
Oh my God. Everyone needs to like exhale at some point in their life.
I totally agree. It's again, like we go back to the technology, like it now takes effort to unplug from
Oh
technology.
my gosh.
It's
Yeah.
like work to have to
Yeah.
say, you know what? I need to go take a minute and relax, pay attention to my nervous system for
Yeah. Go out in nature, like go into a forest without your phone, you know,
forest
like,
bathing. Forest
yeah,
bathing. Have you heard of this
yes.
term, forest bathing?
Yes, yes. No, seriously, like any, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's been a really great thing for me. And I know that like not everyone can just be like, oh, I'm up and moving, but like if you can, like the city, you know, it's great. It's been amazing. It was a dream of mine for always, but like now I'm on to a different dream. You know what I mean? In terms of like starting a family and all of that too. So I think that that would be, it was extremely helpful for us to just kind of like get out of there.
Yeah. And it's okay to have one chapter of your life that really served you and then close that chapter and start a new one.
Absolutely. I think that that's extremely important. Like, you know, some people like, I never looked at leaving New York as like a failure. It was like, I'm on to my next chapter and like really excited to start, you know, this new one. So no, I'm really excited that we're here and that, you know, this is happening.
Yeah, and Reagan, I love it. I have actually on brand with this topic. I have one additional question. If somebody is listening who is in the middle of a transition or thinking about closing the chapter somewhere, what would you want them to hear? What advice would you give them?
So transitions are always messy. Give yourself grace. I think that especially like in terms of like, you know, my experience of transitioning from an athlete to an entrepreneur, it's okay to grieve that past version of yourself. You know, like there are times where it's going to be like you're stepping into a new chapter, you're stepping into a new person, an identity. So like don't be afraid to kind of understand that like you know, grieve a little bit, you know, and it's normal. And like, I think that, you know, transitions are always messy and like you're going to feel untethered, you're going to feel unmoored, but like I have trouble doing this sometimes just because I'm a Virgo and I'm also very like type A, but like, you know,
Yeah,
I want to control the process and I want to know like all of my effort is like putting me into some place, you know what I mean? But sometimes the best thing you can do is trust, you know, and like not do anything and just like you obviously have to show up and do the work, but if you're doing the work and you're showing up, something is going to happen and you're actually using a lot of your energy just like worrying, you know what I mean? Like I'm very big into like trying to figure out like just trust, you know, trust the process. I think that that also was back when you're training, you know, like you're running like hills from your coach and you're like, what am I doing this for? You know what I mean? And it's like, just trust. There's a reason, you know? So I think just like embrace the mess, you know, as cliche as it sounds. If you're putting in the work, like you are going to be going somewhere and just make sure you're using that energy to kind of like put the good vibes out. Like I'm very big into that now in terms of just like, all right, be open to what's next and what's coming. Put in the hard work, but trust that you know, your work is going to get you to where you need to be.
I think that's a wonderful theme and takeaway from this episode is trust the process, trust your effort. Things will align the way they are supposed to.
Embrace the mess. It's like
Yes,
we're
embrace
all
the
a mess. Like I think a lot of times too, back to like the social media of it all, like who cares at the end of the day?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you are proud of what you're doing and the work you're doing, obviously it's hard to compare yourself with other people like personally if you're on Instagram or professionally on LinkedIn. And it's just, if you're doing the work, be proud of that. Take the small wins and don't compare yourself to others. I know it's really hard, but I've really tried to start doing that, set limits on like when I'm on LinkedIn or, Instagram. And it's like, are we getting into doom scrolling territory? Or is this like actually helpful for, consuming content for whether that's Medalist or business strategy or, anything like that. So
yeah, totally agree. Comparison truly is the thief of joy.
oh yeah.
It totally is.
Yeah, we could do a whole other episode on that.
We could absolutely, and I know that we could keep talking forever. So, AnnRagan,
forever.
I actually really want to have you back for a part 2 in the future, especially as you're launching more things with Medalist and just crushing it. So, I would love to have you back. I'm so excited. This conversation is amazing. I can't wait to share it with our listeners. So, where can they connect with you? Where can they find you? Or where can they find your skincare?
Yes. Okay. So we are www.medalistskin.com online. We're also on TikTok Shop. So you can, purchase from there. Our Instagram and TikTok handles are the same at Medalist Skin. And if you want to find me, I'm at AnnRagan Kearns.
I love it. Thank you so much, AnnRagan. I so appreciate your time. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll be back with AnnRagan again. She will not be a stranger to the show. I hope I invite back.
Yes. Thank you. So much fun. Bye, Jordan.